Has anybody ever been to Baton Rouge?
I'm from New Orleans. I went to LSU. I graduated from LSU. I went to Spring Hill first. I was playing basketball, but then I went to LSU. That's where I graduated. Yeah, so I've been to Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is like kind of like a second home. I have family out there. Baton Rouge is cool. New Orleans is the best city in the world, hands down.
Has anybody been to Baton Rouge, Louisiana? I know a lot of y'all like to go over to Bourbon Street. Some people talk a little bit about Shreveport, Louisiana, because 50 Cent is in Baton.
I mean, Louisiana got a lot of stuff. He talking about Baton Rouge, Shreveport, New Orleans, 50 Cent shooting movies down there. Mos Def came down. He lives down there sometimes. Some of the actors come hang out in New Orleans. Bourbon Street's cool. The French Quarter and stuff is nice food. But we have stuff uptown, St. Charles. We got stuff in Lakeview. We got stuff in Mid-City. We got a lot of food, a lot of gumbo, a lot of seafood. We have parades. We have parades during Mardi Gras. We have parades, not parades, but we have like second lines when people die. So we like celebrate the people's life by parading and playing music. It's just, I think New Orleans is a fun place. Really, other than the violent crime being a lot high. Not so much violent crime, but just murder. Murder's kind of high, and the carjackings. There's been a little uptick in carjackings. So murder and carjackings are a problem. We do need to address that. But overall, I just think it's a great city. So if you have the means, I suggest you come to New Orleans. Like I said, it's a great place for food, great place for fun. I think the New Orleans residents are very kind. We're open. We love seeing tourists. We love interacting with tourists. We love telling them about the culture, the history. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a good representation of New Orleans. I mean, I think I'm honest. I think I'm cool and stuff. And, I have an attitude if you do me something. But, like, other than that, I feel like I'm pretty cool to be around and open. So come to New Orleans, people. That has nothing to do with this reaction. But I always got to shout out the home team in the hometown. Uptown till I die, too.
Investing in there. Have anybody actually been over to Baton Rouge? Well, over in Baton Rouge, apparently, white people decided to divest themselves from the community. Let me get a round of applause for these white people over in Baton Rouge.
Now, see, I say Anton cool, and now you already starting off with the bullshit. So it's like they trying to divest themselves from black people or divest themselves from poor people. Because why just move to Baton Rouge? Again, I always bring up Appalachia. There are a lot of places in America. For example, blacks are 13% of the population. They're like 70% of New Orleans. There are over 50% of Detroit, I believe. They're over 30% of Chicago, right? So if we're only 13% total, and in a lot of major American cities like Philadelphia, New York, etc., well, maybe not New York, but Los Angeles and Philadelphia, all those places, we are more than 12%. We're like 25%, 50, 70%. If you understand math, you'll understand if we overrepresent in in a few cities, that means the vast majority of cities in America don't have black people. So there are many places that white people can live. So if white people want to live in those places, you're welcome to move there. But many white people don't want to move there because what they would find is if you move around rural America, you move around a lot of these small towns, there are crime problems there. So it's not that white people are trying to move away from blacks again. They're trying to move away from poor people. And the problem is there are over 50 million poor people in America. So you're not going to be able to the middle class is not going to be able to get away from the lower class. Plus, to keep the things that the middle class finds convenient, like their stores, like their bus drivers, like their teachers, like their the people who prepare your food, the cafeteria workers, etc., people who work at the Nike stores. All of these great people who do these essential services, they're a part of the lower class. So the middle class people have to at some point understand that there are a lot of great people in the lower class, so you can't separate from them. There are a lot of great black people, so you can't separate from them. And we need to just start working on actual solutions. There are some problems with the lower class. There are some problems with the blacks. We should work on the solutions and dialogue about it and try to put in policies and laws to make the society better. But this whole I'm just going to move away, the middle class can't survive without the lower class. White people, I guess they could survive in Europe without blacks, but you came and bothered the blacks for their resources in Africa. And the world is global now. So honestly, I don't even think white people can survive without blacks because we're all like intermingled. So I just say that to say, yes, it sounds funny and it sounds cool to say we're a better people and we can do on our own, but actually everybody needs one another. So all of this poking your nose up at people and thinking you're holier than thou, it ain't gonna cut it no more.
Y'all sent this to me last night. I read it this morning and I said, no, they didn't. No, now y'all have no reason to complain about what you control within your own city. And the mayor over there, I heard she was having a fit. You live in Baton Rouge, Lee Turner? I'm wondering what y'all feel about this. Me, I'm from Louisiana, it's the capital. Baton Rouge is where the good old white people is at. No, not these white people. These white people said, we don't want to be a part of what's going on over here. And so we going to divest ourselves. We're going to create our own city. And so I have not reviewed this yet, but I did see the title and I did pull up a couple of videos that I was able to source so we can have this conversation. But I was incredibly amazed that they was able to do this and divest themselves from the community. Jay Anderson says, you knew I was going to bring this up. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I haven't even reviewed it yet. I don't even know what's going on. Anyways.
I could tell white people one thing, like I just hinted at before. When you divest, you are going to need labor. I don't think black people are the labor backbone. I think the lower income people are the essential workers and are the backbone of the economy. So whether they're white or black, it doesn't matter to me. These middle class people who own homes and think they're better than the lower class, when you divest, you are going to need the lower class. Just remember that. Y'all ain't shit without everybody else.
Our good old white people, wealthy white people is what they saying, decided that they wanted to create their own city and break away from Baton Rouge. Let's see.
Louisiana's highest court sent its ruling down, paving the way for St. George to officially become its own city.
That's right. Deshaun Johnson is live in downtown Baton Rouge with reaction on this decision. Good evening, Deshaun.
Yeah, Renee and Jacob, this has been a decision going on for years. And earlier today, the ruling for St. George to officially be incorporated as its own city was approved after a 4-3 vote from the Louisiana Supreme Court. The justices found that legal error led to lower courts denying the incorporation, and the lower court's judgment was reversed. The city's incorporators and electors won the judgment requested. St. George incorporators were taken to court following a 2019 election that was approved, allowing the city to be created. Prior court rulings sided with Baton Rouge, denying the creation of the new city before the decision by the state Supreme Court. Here's the reaction on the ruling.
I am committed to serving the residents of St. George, just as I served those of Baker, Central, and Zachary. And in the days ahead, I will proceed to have conversations to determine the best course of action in compliance with the court's final decision.
We are open for everyone. If you want more opportunity, you want a better life, you want a chance for lower crime, St. George, I don't care what you look like. No one does. No one ever did.
Let me tell you something. When I looked at every single headline, when it came to St. George and Baton Rouge, it was all white people against black people. And so here's my question. First, before we deep dive into this, who said this? Who started writing the headlines? Why did it then become white people against black people when it's really more about people that stand for something, don't want crime, don't want to move a certain way, don't want to be operating in this liberal society? We shouldn't be paying for all of the resources that we not even using. And then they go over to the Victim Olympics over there and then people continue to do the worst things for the community. What he just said was, listen, we don't really care what you look like. It's not about identity politics. This ain't diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is about people that stand for a certain standard of living and don't want to immerse themselves in this trash culture. Come on over to St. George. Come on over to Death Row. He said, listen, you don't want your CEO dancing all in your videos, being at the forefront, all at the award shows. Come on over to St. George. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't playing no games. He said, listen, you don't want nobody all in your videos, causing problems, creating issues. It don't matter what you look like. Come on over here. I don't really understand what the problem is. They did it legally. They fought the good fight. They separated themselves. And they said, we're not going to continue to deal with this nonsense.
I don't see a problem with them starting their own city. I just think that everything that their city needs, since they broke away from the other Baton Rouge areas, I don't think that they should utilize any of the services from the people they were trying to get away from, since they're claiming that those people cause problems. I'm going to have a huge problem if the workforce and the people in Baton Rouge who they wanted to get away are then used for them to have workers and for them to have boost their economy. So if you want a St. George separate from the other areas in Baton Rouge, and you're against the Baton Rouge residents, you think they're criminals, you think they're using your money to fund their lifestyles, don't try to use their labor to fund your lifestyle. Be fair about it both ways is all I would say.
Narrative that was created as a smokescreen to rally people into a cause. It's never been true.
St. George would join Baker, Central, and Zachary in forming its cities within East Baton Rouge. And Murrow did say this will be a long process and it won't happen overnight. Reporting live in downtown Baton Rouge, Deshaun Johnson, NBC Local 33 News.
Ain't that what y'all wanted, though? I thought that's what y'all wanted. Every single time you'll say, yeah, man. None of y'all actually read the real Martin Luther King speech. Nobody read the real Martin Luther King speech. But you know what? You know what they always say? Man, Martin Luther King even admitted that he said that he led us into a burning building. We should have segregated ourselves. That's what y'all tell me. Y'all say, yep, we want to segregate ourselves. You said, we's better off, boss, with our own city. I seen how that played out. It didn't work. You know where I seen it play out first? And what was once considered at one point the blackest city in the United States of America, Detroit, Michigan, back in the 90s, the 80s.
New Orleans is a black city. We still doing fine. Detroit having problems because people aren't using cars anymore. So again, it's not a racial thing. It's an economic thing. What Anton is saying is inaccurate.
80s and the 2000s, for the 99 and the 2000s. You said you're working with Detroit here. Oh, yeah. Yep. We had black mayors, black city council people. White people was like, you know what? We're going to go ahead and move on out since y'all don't want us here. Y'all want to come in and do your own thing and make sure okay, you got it. You got good jobs. You got a great school system. You have a growing economy and a growing community. Y'all want to tear up every single time something happened. Y'all rioted in 67. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. We're not going to rebuild. We're going to go ahead and dip. Dip, baby, dip. Come on now, dip, baby, dip. They said we getting on up out of there. Next thing you know, took a few decades, a lot of crime, a lot of pilfering of funds, a lot of stealing from the school systems, superintendents.
All that happens in every city, and in the cities that those things happen in are still thriving, like Philadelphia, New York, New Orleans, etc. He's, again, just talking about the auto industry failed, so Detroit failed. In Appalachia, the manufacturer work dried up, so now Appalachia isn't doing well, right? Just like slavery, when the cotton gin came out and other technological advancements came out, society changed. So when they didn't need slave labor anymore, the South stopped being as wealthy as it used to be. So that's all, again, economic things. So it's unfortunate that Antoine, who I said had some interesting points, he's highlighting that he's not knowledgeable about this particular topic. So everything that he's trying to turn into a racial issue, again, is just the economics change. Then when the economics change, the environment change. And when the environment and economics change for the worse, the city goes downhill. It really has nothing to do with race. Or very little to do with race, I'll say.
Principles, population, every person that you can think of was from the community. Every person that you can think of was from the community. 2008 came. That was the end of the conversation.
I mean, I kind of don't even want to finish watching this. As everybody knows, there was a huge bailout because the economy crashed, housing market had dropped, and it was all based upon the death of the auto industry. Again, the auto industry died, Detroit died. It's totally economic and it has to do with business, nothing to do with race. I'm surprised that he's not, as he's speaking, realizing, oh, the things I'm talking about are not racial. I'm talking about national things that affect certain business markets. But you know, everybody doesn't think through their thoughts, I guess, while they're talking.
Conversation. That was the end of the conversation. So if people decide that they want to abide by the law and separate themselves and say, listen, we don't want to be a part of it, and we're not even making it a race issue. It's a cultural issue. If you want to move over here and do things the right way, then we're going to play it a little bit differently. Okay.
Now, I'm okay with that from the standpoint of you have liberal cities, you have conservative cities. Everybody doesn't agree with liberal policies and everybody doesn't agree with conservative policies. I actually think a lot of the conservative policies are good in terms of like strong law enforcement that's helpful to a community. I think that in terms of things like welfare, we should watch who gets money and why. So I don't believe in drug testing, but I do believe that implementing things like work requirements for men is good. I believe that trying to balance the national budget, but also the local budget is good, right? So I think we should help people when we're able to help them, but I don't think we should squeeze the middle class to the point where they're almost low income themselves just to help low income families. I think there should be some give and take. So in terms of what he's saying, and as far as saying, oh, well, the liberal policies don't work, and if anybody, whether they're black, brown, yellow, wants to move into a conservative area, but they just have to follow the conservative policies, I'm in agreement with that. So if there are other counties or cities who really are about ideological shift, I support that. My issue is that a lot of the so-called ideology fights and disagreements tend to be about race and gender and not necessarily like what I consider economic, social, or value or culture aspects. I think it comes down to just people being racist or being bigoted or being anti-Semitic, right? So those things I don't agree with, but I do agree with like differences in philosophies. So I actually would be okay if cities start breaking off across the country. If people start having the option of deciding, oh, do I want to live in a liberal or a conservative place? We already have that, honestly. And what happens is in the large major places, they become liberal because when it's a small town, whether it's wealthy, low income, or middle class, it can be homogenous, right? So when it's a small town, it's easier to be quote unquote conservative because it's a homogenous place. But in a large area, you're going to have diversity. You're going to have diversity of thought, people, economics, religion, etc. So really what it boils down to is population size again. Population size can cause people to act different and be more rowdy. Population size also causes a more diverse and a more liberal mindset because you have no choice but to see other groups and see those groups in their totality. So homogeneous allows you to have your small group be the same. A high population causes diversity and it causes many differences to arise. And you have to like network through that.
So this is what, I don't know if this is Fox Soul Brother or whatever. His name is Isaiah. I've never actually heard it before, but I've seen a little bit of this and now I know he's going to have a conversation. And I'm wondering, do he look at this as a race thing because he's a part of Fox 26? Let's see what he got to say.
And thank you for joining us for our second half hour. The Factor Uncensored. The headlines from the national media are eye-grabbing at best. Wealthy white Louisiana residents split from Baton Rouge to form their own city. But is race a real issue at the core of this municipal secession? The 86,000 residents who are forming their own city in St. George, Louisiana, say it's about better schools for their children and better city services.
Thanks.
Baton Rouge is more than 50% black, and those who are against the splits.
Okay, so I'm about to point out some of the things that the Republicans are doing that's sneaky, right? These people they're saying are wealthy, so they have money. They're probably paying to keep their kids out of school with the community in Baton Rouge that they don't want their kids to associate with. So they're coming out of pocket to pay for their education. What they're trying to do and what they just did was, if they got their own city, they're going to keep their money and then they're going to have their tax money, and then other like the tax pools money go to education. So basically what they're saying is they didn't want their tax dollars to go towards low income education for the people in Baton Rouge. They wanted their education money that they're already paying for their kids to continue to go to their kids, but it's not going to go to anyone else. So I think that's somewhat selfish. I think that what they're saying is, though we have the money to pay taxes and help the larger community, we just want to keep the money to ourselves, continue to pay for our kids' education, but put them in a public school now that we're funding with our own tax dollars in our community, and we don't want to help other people. So if you want to be sneaky, that's fine. If you want to keep your money, that's fine. But God sees everything. And so, well, I don't see everything, but I see what God shows me. So what I'm saying is, we see what you're doing. Some of your money was going to low income families, and you don't want to spend money on low income families. You don't want to help those in need. You don't want to help those who may be struggling. You want to keep your money for yourself, and you want that money to go to you and yours. That's fine. But morally, there's some question there. There's some gray. What's wrong with helping others if you're blessed? What's wrong with helping others if you're educated and you have things going well for yourself? Why not help other people? So since I'm in Louisiana, I'll follow this situation and I'll be open-minded. Maybe once they separate from the community, if their community is strong, maybe they will be open to helping the communities that they separated from, and maybe they just don't want to be too tied to them culturally. And I could understand that as well. Maybe that's the compromise. Maybe they're saying, look, the cultures are too different. We can't be around you guys so much. We can't be around you guys as often as we were when we were the same city. But we are wealthy. We do have the money. We do pay taxes. We do want to see you do better. So maybe they're willing to help the people in Baton Rouge that they separated from. And if they are, I would say kudos to them, and I would apologize for stating that what they were doing was morally wrong. So definitely I'll be watching the people in St. George and the rest of East Baton Rouge.
Say the city will be hurt by this action to create a new city, which was approved by the Louisiana State Supreme Court last Friday after a 5-year-long battle. And joining us on The Factor Uncensored tonight, we have with us Eugene Collins, who's the former president of the NAACP in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Oh, Eugene, you guys have quite a situation.
First thing that I would do if I created my own city was abolish anything that had anything to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. NAACP, affirmative action, Jesse Jackson, Umar Johnson, Jay Morrison, all of these people, Amanda Seals. We ban in protesting, we ban in everything. Everything is banned that have anything to do with DEI, Black Lives Matters, all of that. We are a melting pot. We rock with everybody over here based off of character, not based off of color. Anytime I hear the organization, the NAACP, you know what I hear? KKK. That's all I hear. It's the opposite of it's the same thing as the KKK, except for it got blackface on it.
There's a lot to unpack here. I don't support DEI. I do think diversity is important, but I think that sometimes they diversify, but don't always pick the best candidate. So I do understand. I'll go through the law school thing again since I took the LSAT, and then I know, a plethora of lawyers. I do think everybody's qualified when they get hired, but sometimes when they're applying just for the doctorate, they'll let in people who are not as intelligent based upon race. So I'm against that. But what I'll also say for diversity and inclusion is people have to pass the assessments. You have to pass the bar to be a lawyer. You have to pass the boards to be a doctor. So none of the people who are practicing and have a license are unqualified. The only issue is that sometimes they pass better candidates in the process of becoming getting your doctorate degree. So both sides have a point in that it's wrong if you have a less qualified black get a doctorate degree over a more qualified white. However, it's also wrong to state that the doctors and lawyers are unqualified when everybody had to pass their boards. Everybody's qualified again who's practicing, but there were times on the journey where a person who was less qualified did get an opportunity because of race. So hopefully people are following along with what I'm saying. I'm not trying to play both sides. I'm just stating the facts. Then also what he said about the NAACP and the KKK, sometimes pro-black people can be like the KKK when they're only looking out for their group. However, to compare the KKK to the NAACP is somewhat stupid and low IQ, because the KKK was killing people and hanging blacks. The NAACP is not hanging white people. They're not trying to kill white people. They were created to defend blacks against white people. Well, not white people, but against white people who are causing blacks harm. So the spirit of the NAACP is really supposed to just be getting equal opportunity for blacks, which means equal opportunity for everyone. Whereas the KKK was not trying to get equal opportunity for blacks and whites. They were trying to hold blacks to have less opportunities, make them inferior, and not give them the same chances. So they're not two equivalent groups. It's unfortunate that Antoine is saying so many incorrect things. I don't want to make fun of him, but he's pushing the line of me calling him an Uncle Tom or me calling him a low IQ black, because there's many things that he's saying that are inaccurate.
And then they hijacked the NAACP. And they said, well, it's just a people of color. It ain't even black people no more. That's all I hear, honestly, is this reverse racism. It's an excuse to leverage how you feel about a particular people and say what you really want to say without any repercussions by tying yourself to an organization.
There with St. George, the community now breaking off, becoming its own city after the Louisiana Supreme Court approved it. So what do you think this will do to the city of Baton Rouge?
It's confusing, right? When you look at it just on the surface, there's so many unknowns to the city of Baton Rouge. So already what it has done is severely confuse the residents. And the biggest concern that I've seen so far is about where do people send their kids to school, right? Because you have a ton of folks that live in that area that if a new school district is established over the next 2 years, I mean, you got some legacy things that folks that might have went to some of the
we don't care
that now maybe have to go to school in St. George, and those families are up in the air. So what has already caused
the move to Baton Rouge,
severe confusion. And I think some of the dangers of it futuristically is you continue to further divide an already highly racially charged area. And that just can't be good for the city of Baton Rouge.
Wait. I thought y'all wanted to segregate. I thought y'all wanted to separate. Honestly, I thought that y'all said y'all want to be able to do what y'all want to do when y'all want to do it. So they say, listen, we tired of the crime. We tired of anchoring the community. We tired of paying the majority of the property taxes. We tired of subjecting ourselves to it. We gonna legally go through the process to separate ourselves, make ourselves our own city. And now y'all talking about legacy? Oh man, it was people that may have went to a school over there, and now they looking at it a little bit differently. Man, it's a racially charged area. No. Which one you want? You want to separate yourself, or you want to be a part of the community? Or you want the people that's actually doing the best for the community to pay for you to continue to be racially motivated?
Biggest green flag that you're going to reach millions of people with your message, just like my client, Ellie Nash, who did a talk that got
overall and over time. But at the same time, I want to acknowledge that these folks are organized. They went out and got the votes. Raised money to continue their legal battles. Mm-hmm. And they went through a democratic process to get this city established, for which, I understand democracy, and I understand that's the way.
We'll read the super chat shortly.
It's supposed to work.
Or the cash apps, I'm sorry.
Dangerous notion, I believe, for the city of Baton Rouge to split at any level with the current environment that we have.
And of course, for those who are wondering, how did we get here? You look at the New York Post, you look at the Daily Mail, and the headlines show mainly white, wealthy community pulls out of Baton Rouge, starting their own city.
Sure, black people wrote that.
Would that be accurate? And what is the reasoning behind pulling out of Baton Rouge from your perspective and what you know?
Well, when you look at the basis of what they have publicly said about their argument to separate from the city of Baton Rouge, it's been based around better schools, right? Which in itself on its face doesn't make a ton of sense, right? Because you have some people that have supported this movement that have held hold seats on our school board, right? And it's supposed to be their job to improve schools. So that
no, we don't. Listen.
Contradictory to.
They don't want your bad kids hanging out with their kids, and they want to separate themselves and say, listen, we prefer to be able to do a different type of job and managing ourselves, and we'll deal with the consequences that come along with that. That's really what it comes back down to. No, don't keep telling me, no. Don't separate yourself. Translation. Don't take your resources away from our resources, and we should continue to be able to draw off of your resources in order to make sure that we can continue to run in the Victim Olympics and still blame it on you for what happens in your community.
To what we see on his face. Not to mention, when you look at the makeup of the organizers and you don't have any people of color amongst them, it's hard not to make the assumption that this is something that might be racially driven. But at the same time, I have to be honest and say that the rhetoric, the narrative that they have pushed has been about better schools. But I don't see how separating the school district can create better schools.
But so right now, the Supreme Court has only approved the city, creating a city. You're not at a school district yet. And much of this still may be.
Oh, we getting there. They gonna get there.
The process.
Might have to go visit St. George.
Maybe down the road, but there are already House bills that's been
Jamal, don't do that, Jamal. Oh my God. What's your Cash App? Jamal. We'll get there in a minute. We'll get there.
About the things that are necessary and needed to ensure that this city gets its own school district. Not to mention that the various things that have been done to improve the district in that region already. This city is paid for, right? Not to mention when you look at how they plan on supporting themselves, it's pulling a lot of the resources and the tax bases from Baton Rouge, stuff that has been
they're gonna separate themselves
to keep our
you do your own thing,
right?
No, ain't no hour.
So I think
ain't no hour.
Sharon Weston Broom, the mayor there, said the city of Baton Rouge could lose at least $46 million.
See, it's all about the money. You want their money.
At least, and probably more, right? So when you take all that into account, this is going to hurt the underserved. This is going to be paid for on the backs of poor Black folks.
And this is what it comes back down to. They're going to sell you on the idea that, oh my God, this is going to be paid for by poor Black folks. No. What they really saying is, we're no longer going to give all of our resources over to you, but not get nothing in return. So you can now.
So that's why earlier in the reaction, I said it's going to be a both sides situation will follow. I see that the wealthy people, again, don't want their money going to the urban, I shouldn't say urban, well, yes, it's urban, the urban community in Baton Rouge. But I also think that the Black people are not victims because they don't have to provide any services to those wealthy communities. So if those wealthy communities are able to survive without the labor and out the work of the inner city and the disadvantaged community, then so be it for them, and kudos to them. I believe that the lower income people in Baton Rouge should understand their wealth and their power, right? So people are saying you're causing a problem and they don't want to be around you. Tell them, okay, if they're able to produce the goods they need, they're able to produce the workers they need, they're able to produce the services they need by themselves, for themselves, great for them. But if they come to you now that they've taken their $50 million or whatever amount of money he's saying they're going to lose in taxes, if they've taken $50 million away from your community, take what your community has, which is the labor and the other things that they provide. So if the people want to create a civil war, well, I don't mean an actual civil war of violence. What I mean is a civil war of ideas. If people believe they can do without you, show them your value, and vice versa. As the wealthy people are showing the people in Baton Rouge, we believe we don't need you. We're gonna separate and do our own thing. Let's see how that goes. In response, I think Baton Rouge should get together and figure out how they're gonna run their city. Make sure their city has what it needs, since they're losing some of its resources. So I think this could be both. This could be something that's good for both sides to see, well, do we need each other or do we not need each other? My bet is that everyone needs each other, because it's not a racial thing as much as it's an economic thing, and it's a cultural thing in the sense of we need all the economic and socioeconomic groups. We need the upper class, middle class, and lower class. So I don't believe anybody can separate and then still have the society that we have in America. Same thing cultural wise. I don't believe that the cultures can completely separate and still enjoy America as it is today, as I believe both sides bring various pros and cons from their behavior, from their education, and from their lifestyles.
Now manage, own, and pay for your own situation, and we gonna separate ourselves, and we gonna create a new situation that's gonna be conducive for what we got going over here. Hey, shout out to St. George. Shout out to St. George.
Shout out to St. George and my niggas in East Baton Rouge. I love everybody.
Oh man, this is gonna be paid for on the behalf of poor, but no, it's not. No, it's not. That's not what they said. No, it's not. It's not paid for on the behalf of poor black people. That's not what happens. What really happens is it's now be able to separate it and say, hey, you can swim, and if you can't swim, you bound to drizzle. That's really what happened.
I agree with what you're saying, but let's see how it go from both sides. Because now that I've learned about this situation, I intend to actually reach out to some people in Baton Rouge and let them know what they can do to protect themselves. So they're about to lose $50 million. So I will definitely reach out and see what they can do as far as like improving their community and improving their economic status. I'll help St. George too if they need help, but they seem to have separated and believe they're going to be doing fine. So I don't see any reason to reach out to them. But if they fell on hard times for whatever reason, I would have no problem reaching out and finding out what I can do to help their community as well.
If you can't swim, you bound to drizzle. You want other people to pay for you to do what you want to do, but don't want to put nothing in the pot. Now you're going to say, oh, no, it's going to be paid for on the backs of this person and that person. No,
so I think this is a good place to stop. I think that there's an inherent assumption that middle class people always make that essential workers and the low income people don't put in work. And I've experienced this in my life when I start talking to various people who are conservatives and Republicans. They seem to always think they do for the lower class and the lower class does nothing. So because of this situation and other situations I have seen around the country, there's also another whites only town being created somewhere in rural America, which doesn't really affect blacks because there's not black people in the area. I'm going to definitely be more active and reach out to local people in my city first to find out what's going on in my city, but also other local municipalities around the country. I'm gonna start finding out what's going on with these different court cases, because if it's happening in St. George and if it's happening in rural America, I'm sure it's happening, not rural America, but St. George and also, rural America, the other all-white city that I heard about, it's probably happening in a lot of cities. So as the whites are organizing and as wealthy people are organizing, I myself want to take it upon myself to find out what's going on with some of the people of color and some of the low income families, because I think it would be in their best interest to start preparing for what they're gonna do in response to what's being done to them. If you like this video, please smash the like button, comment, and subscribe. New shows airing Monday through Thursday.